Hello and welcome to a City Voices interview with Greg Ralls of Australia. He's a husband, a father, and an engineer in the mining industry. And he was also diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Wow, that's incredible. You have a story to tell, my friend, and it's up to you to tell it. Wherever you want to start. Have you told this story before in public?
Yeah, quite often in recent years. Yeah, I have, Dan. Thanks for the intro. No, you've summed it up pretty well to start. And I'm fairly open about my experiences. I've actually I've actually published some books about my life experiences, a bit of navel gazing there. I've taken the time to write down what I've lived, and I actually have them here. I've written 3 of them.
Well, let's start like back when you were growing up. Like,
Yep.
what was your family life growing up?
That's a good starting point. So I had I would think a good, settled, secure, peaceful childhood over on the other side of Australia, in the state of Victoria, in a rural area, and grew up on a farm, and it was a hobby farm. My parents both worked other jobs, and Dad farmed in his spare time, and it was really idyllic. It was this country setting, sort of forest or bushland around, and yeah, it was.
Was your freedom as a child, the fun that children should have, the smiles, the laughter, the joy of being a child, was all that, and the innocence, of course, the innocence, was all that preserved in this idyllic setting?
It was. Yeah, I can, when I guess I reflect upon things that happened later in life, none of it was in any way, I think, influenced by my upbringing, if that makes sense. The dark night of the soul, as it were, that happened later in life was more related to events in adulthood, and so there was no abuse or traumatic things or issues around domestic things at home. It was just a really secure upbringing that I had.
So what happened as an adult, Greg?
Yeah, so as an adult, my journey was, I was quite academically inclined, and I went through school and I did quite well, and I went through uni, and I studied at uni to become an engineer, and that all went really well for me. Graduated in the 1990s, and moved across the continent to live in Western Australia, which is where I am here now. And it was all very exciting and much an adventure, and I sort of.
Oh, wait! Adventure! What was the? Where was the? What was the adventure about? Tell us about the adventure.
Well, yeah, it was. I guess it was career-wise. I had the opportunity to travel. I did some work on Borneo and all over Western Australia, and visiting parts of the state, and a little, internationally, places I wouldn't otherwise have gone, and travelled, and doing work, and incidentally travelling other places around that. And
did you see anything interesting? Make any interesting friends? Anything like that?
I wouldn't say so. Actually, what I would I mean, I saw a few monkeys in trees on Borneo, and that was about it. But no, I actually, I've always been pretty solitary in my nature. So that was, I guess that's one aspect of my character that's revealing, perhaps. But
were you solitary as a child?
very much so, because of the sort of rural upbringing. I spent hours on my own outside of school and hobbies. I guess I I used to roam for hours in the bush by myself, walking miles away from home, and nobody would have had any idea where I was. And I'd be away just for hours and hours.
Is that not, are there any dangers in the bush, like dingoes and crocodiles or anything like that?
Not so much dingoes and crocodiles. We have this reptile, a snake, the tiger snake. It's the most venomous snake on earth, I believe. And
wow.
I did encounter one on one occasion, right up close, and I looked at it and it looked at me, and I think it chose not to attack me.
How come?
Which, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite the snake expert, but yeah. But they can be a bit aggressive, and I think it's mainly if there are young snakes. You know, a mother will defend its young, and so I mean, we used to get them like in our backyard at home as well.
Wow.
And so I know my dad would sort of take a shovel or a long length of pipe and whack them and kill them.
Ooh.
But, which you have to be very careful doing. But yeah, so I mean, aside from that, you would see kangaroos in the bush and maybe these other creatures called wombats, and not too much else. Some cows in the paddocks. And
So what did you like to do in the bush besides walk?
It was mostly exercise my imagination. So I would pretend that I was Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones, and and just dream of fantastic adventures. And I'd be, you know, leaping over logs and running through trees and just imagining that I was doing things that you might see in the movies. But it sounds quite sad, doesn't it, to be honest? But
No, that sounds pretty cool, actually. That sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, it was as a kid. It was as a kid, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that upbringing, that freedom, just to roam and imagine and play.
Where are you right now at this very moment? Not physically, but like, are you happy? Are you a happy guy?
I think so. I think I'm sort of content in where I am now. So, despite, you know, a pandemic and all the things surrounding it, I don't want to sort of lower the tone here, but I think as well, the things I've been through in life at certain points, those dark night of the soul events and times, I feel I've come through that, and at the moment things are good. So I'm kind of content. That's where I'm at. So,
And
yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you know, I've alluded to it a couple of times now. So I guess first you asked what went wrong in my adulthood. And after I'd been working out of uni and working for a couple of years, I did this job in the Northern Territory of Australia, and it was I wrote about it in my first book years later when I was determining why I'd unraveled, because that's what happened. I sort of had my first mental health challenges around that time, and it was work related for me. You know, that's how I identify it now, and did in writing the book, Unravel.
You can show the book cover if you want.
Yeah, too unwell and back. So.
Oh, that's a good cover. That looks very professional. Did you get a regular publishing company to do that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, I mean, independently,
congratulations.
through a traditional publishing company, but so,
okay. So yeah, you were under a lot of pressure. You were under a lot of pressure at work, and this was you said you started unraveling. That's your word, unravel.
Yeah. So on this job in the Northern Territory, it was. I don't want to go on about it too much, but I was working long hours in a remote location, and for an extended period in the build up to the wet season. It's sort of a tropical environment, if you can picture it, and fairly isolated and on my own with a contractor who was a bit creepy, it turned out. And
really, why was he creepy? What was it? What was about him?
Oh, he was sort of playing mind games and being intimidatory. So how you say it?
Intimidating. Oh,
intimidating. So and saying,
was he a physically imposing guy, or
not really? He was an older guy,
okay.
And he said some strange things about murdering people and
oh my goodness,
other things. So I was focused on the work I was doing, I guess, and
well, how did that make you feel when he was talking like that? What was going through your heart and mind?
So it didn't register with me initially. I was focused on doing the work, and then I was staying in a hotel outside working hours because I was away from home, and I woke up at about, I think it was like 3 or 5 or some early hour of the morning, sort of in a cold sweat, thinking about things that had happened in the preceding day. And it registered then with me that the guy that I'd been working alongside, who I had to go back that day and work with, there was something not quite right. And but that also made something switch in me, if you like, that kind of I don't know how to describe it, but so I spoke with people. I had a client contact that I rang initially and explained the situation to, and they didn't quite seem to get it, and then suggested that I should just go to work that day. And then I rang a colleague, a senior colleague back in the head office later in the sort of morning, but before going to site, and they didn't quite get it either. They didn't understand the situation. And I rang the local police, and they said that, well, this guy actually hadn't done anything physically to me, so there was very little they could do. And so no one really got it. And so I started driving to site. It was from the hotel to site, maybe an hour's drive along a dirt road. And I'm driving along, and I saw a dead animal on the side of the road, and it just made something in my head say no, like, don't go there, don't go. It's not safe. And so I turned
Like
around. I turned
something
around. I
killed
stopped
something
there.
in your mind, like something killed that animal and it could kill you too.
No, it's kind of like a synchronicity, or just a bizarre thing that that aura or aspect of, the carcass on the side of the road.
Have you ever felt like a fear like that before in your life, or was that experience of fear and paranoia? I guess paranoia is the clinical word. Was that new to you?
Yeah, it was new to me. So I'd never ever felt that before. And the other thing was that, so I had a mobile phone with me. I was out of range. When I got back in range, heading back toward the city of Darwin, I rang work and I told them I'm not going to work today. And for me, that was really distressing. There was a lot of shame in that I'd already spoken with this sort of senior colleague earlier and more or less been instructed to go to work. And then I was, I guess, refusing to, and just couldn't explain why. And it just, I felt this real shame, and it made me quite emotional, and because I wasn't one to give in on work. and
But did you fear for your life?
Kind of, in a way. I mean,
I
it was
mean,
funny. The
yeah.
client contact later told me that that when this person that I'd been working with and had to work with again, who it turned out I never did ever see again, when they apparently heard that I wasn't coming to site that day, they flew into a rage, apparently. And according to this client contact who was involved. But yeah, so this guy that I was fearful about was also in a rage, and then but something wasn't right in the whole situation. And
did you think this guy was going to kill you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course. So I went back to the city. I went back to the hotel room. I locked myself in there in the hotel room. And then strange things were happening. Like I had the TV on, and it seemed like there were messages coming through the TV. And it seemed like there were surveillance devices in the room that I was being watched. And so I guess hallmark signs of someone being mentally unstable. And I don't know why that is. It's triggered by this adverse situation or adversity or psychological trauma, whatever.
How old were you?
I was mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So I guess then I was somehow in contact with people back in the head office and in a different state in Western Australia, and they arranged for me to fly back to Perth, which is the city I live in here now, and I was living in then, and just stopped the job, which was a big job. It was for a big oil and gas company, and it's yeah, it was, I guess, came to an end with my running away. But and yeah, the funny thing was that nobody really talked about it at work when I went back several days later to the office. It was, and that fed the paranoia. It's like something traumatic had happened for me in that setting, and nobody talked about it. And
Did
there
you
was no
feel like they were
counseling.
talking about it silently behind your back?
It seemed as though there was some kind of conspiracy around it, but I guess the lack of counseling or debriefing or even discussion of any kind of, you don't just ordinarily walk off a job or run away, as it were, and then people not say anything. So yeah, there
So
were
what did you do
aspects
next?
outside the office of people being interested, aspects of people outside the office being interested, colleagues, but in the office nobody said anything.
How did your
And
family treat you?
yeah, so my family, of course, was over east in Victoria, where I was raised, and I don't know that I communicated it very well to them. I know in that time that the time that I was sort of notifying people on that particular day when I was in that situation, I recall talking with my father. I was ringing everybody I could think of to explain that there was something not right and I couldn't go to work. And but nobody got it. And
Right.
so yeah, but and I guess after all of this, and I don't know, somehow I couldn't communicate it to people in a way that they understood. So but and that, I guess, meant that it was all bottled up inside, and everything had to be normal, as it were, for a couple of years, and it just festered. It was unresolved and not dealt with. It festered for a couple of years, and it led to my having unusual perceptual experiences and
Tell us
thoughts. And
about those. Like, what were? Did you feel like you were communicating with otherworldly beings?
no, no, it was more.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. I mean, everyone's experience is different, right? So for me, it was like experiences of telepathic type experiences. So, or voice hearing, which,
Well, tell us about the telepathy.
like, the thought broadcasting and people being able to hear your thoughts, imagining that was happening, and
But could you read
also
other people's thoughts?
not that I didn't think that I could read other people's thoughts, but I felt at times that I knew what they were thinking, and that I was receiving, sending and receiving thoughts with between other people. Not that I was sort of reading their minds or anything, but there was just this undercurrent of telepathic communication going on that most people were unaware of, but somehow I'd become aware of.
Did you have any friends at this time?
Yeah, not really. So, I mean, I don't think I have many friends now, to be honest.
So you've never had many friends.
I don't have a great need for affinity in that way. That I have a few good friends. Yeah, like a handful of.
Were they around at this time during the chaos?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, yeah, it was all. I guess I joined a church, the local church, and I had there was a youth group. I was young enough then to be in a youth group, and we were doing things together socially, and Bible study and other activities beyond that. And
Did you have an obsession with the Bible?
I mean, yeah, not really. Yes and no. I was just exploring it.
Like, what were your spiritual beliefs?
So I was looking for something then, because I thought that the people around me couldn't be trusted, and because of all of these events that had happened and nobody paying any attention or doing anything about this trauma and traumatic situation.
Explain. Oh, yes, the traumatic situation. Oh, please go on.
Nobody was helping, and so I felt that really I couldn't trust anybody, and then I thought, well, if you can't trust people, who can you turn to? And so obviously God was the answer to that. For me anyhow, and so I went to a Anglican church nearby to the office location in the city, and I'd not had a religious upbringing, so I wanted to know, how do I find these answers that I need and this protection I need, and that I perceived I needed. And I talked with the priest, and he started talking about the Gospels, and rabbiting on, I thought about things that it didn't matter. I just wanted God's protection. And
okay. What were you hoping for? Like what could God do for you?
I thought that if I ever encountered anybody ever again like this person I had encountered in the Northern Territory on this remote site, if ever that anything at all ever happened like that again, maybe God would protect me. Maybe God had protected me, maybe because I do have this kind of belief now in this other spiritual aspect of
what
nature.
would that protection look like? What would that protection look like?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, because I mean, it would be preventing harm, I suppose.
Okay.
So putting me out of harm's way, which is kind of what happened anyway, in a bizarre way. It's just that I had to go through a lot of difficult things, and so that in itself, I was searching, and the Anglican church didn't work for me. I joined a different church, and that kind of, but also I felt I didn't have, social connection. So that I gained through being a member of this other church, the local one just down the street from my home.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Like, at what point did you encounter psychiatrists?
Yeah. So with all this festering kind of unresolved, I guess, I don't know, mental anguish in a way, with all of that, which I didn't kind of grasp fully or understand at the time, in the way I do now, but this unraveling process over this 2-year period. In that same period, there was an economic downturn. Where I live is kind of a boom bust economy type of place in Western Australia, so resources rich part of the earth, and with a strong mining and resources sector, which I work in. anyway, so when times are good and commodity prices are high, things are booming and life is good. And you have, in my experience, not so many difficulties, but in between there are these bust cycles and which, you know, I don't know, I'm not an economist. It happens. And that's what happened. So with this, my unraveling combined with a downturn, I ended up unemployed, and that made life really challenging. But I didn't perceive it that way. I was just going with the flow and out of work and thinking I'd find work, and didn't.
Going with the flow. That sounds kind of nice.
Well, yeah, that's right. I'm thinking to myself, I'll find another job, you know. And I was
You were
hunting
optimistic.
yeah,
Because a lot of people with these experiences find themselves being extremely negative and having negative voices and experiences, all negative. But you were actually quite positive, it seems.
Yeah. So, and I suppose I always have been. In a way, it's my nature, perhaps, to be
Do you get
optimistic.
angry?
Very, very infrequently.
Was it more frequent when you were experiencing these states?
No. No.
Really? Like, what
No.
does anger look like for you?
Anger for me looks like being pushed a lot by others, and then not reacting, and then exploding, and then exploding. So
is that like passive aggressive kind of situation?
I don't think so. It's just being calm a lot, and that it takes a lot to really ruffle my feathers, and then
and then there's if your feathers are ruffled too much and there's too much pressure, then you explode like the top blowing off of a kettle.
Yeah, pretty much. Infrequently.
Okay.
So I can only think of maybe three or so occasions in life, in my almost 50 years now, that it's ever happened. But
oh wow, that's wonderful.
So most of the time fairly calm, but
so you were saying, like, what led to psychiatrists?
Yeah, so in that state of unemployment, and thinking that things would get better, I'd find a job, and things just got more bizarre. And and then of course this other event, a neighbour, something I suspected untoward happened with a neighbour and his girlfriend, and I reported it to the police at the local police station, and wasn't taken quite as seriously as I thought I should be. And again, I explored that in the book that I wrote later. But I thought that this young lady disappeared, and I kind of had a reason to believe that. But so in reporting it to the police, they weren't able to prove it. So therefore my sort of report was unreliable, and
Well, listen, Greg,
in
we only have 15 minutes, and I want to get to the point where you met your wife and you had your kids. So could you fast forward to your introduction to psychiatry, and then what follows, and then how you met your wife and made some kids?
Sure. So in a police station, I essentially had what was labelled as a psychotic episode, because I was angry about not being taken seriously about what I perceived as being a homicide next door. And so to me, having a kind of a deep sense of what's right and wrong, I thought it was wrong that the police didn't do anything, and I became angry. And then it's kind of an Incredible Hulk situation. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, but
it's true. The quiet ones have the biggest rage, right?
it wasn't rage, but it was something different. It wasn't in any way violent or threatening to anybody else. But so then the psychiatric evaluation team was called in, and I was put in a straitjacket, and I was taken to a locked ward on at the local psychiatric hospital.
Did you ever hurt anyone or hurt yourself any times? Like hurt anyone or hurt yourself?
No.
They always ask that.
No self-harm. I guess there was an occasion many years later, and we'll have to be very brief and quick about this, which was only a few years ago, when I tapered off a psychiatric drug, and I wound up in this foreign country, England, and I claimed asylum and was put in a detention centre because I was trying to. Wait,
can you repeat that? You climbed what?
Asylum.
You climbed a what?
Asylum.
What is that? What's that?
When you're being persecuted somewhere, and you go to another nation and you seek their protection.
Oh, asylum. Right. So you wanted asylum in the UK from Australia?
From the psychiatric establishment in Australia.
Oh. And when did this happen?
Not all that long ago, 2015. So in the 2 years leading up to that, I'd gradually tapered off the psych drug, and I was almost completely off it, and a so-called antipsychotic, and which I take now.
But you're not fond of them.
No, not entirely. So that was my problem then. Anyway, so I wound up in this detention centre in London, and got into a bit of a fist fight with two of the guards, or one of the guards, to put it kind of briefly. And that's all in my second book. But and of course I'm married at this point, and yeah, that all happened.
Tell us about your wife.
Well, I mean,
how did you meet?
She wished me luck for this evening. She had a online. I've moved around a bit, and I was moving back here after a period of time away. Back in 2004, I moved back here, having lived in this other part of Australia for a little bit, and I wanted to meet someone, a woman, and so I went online, as you do, a dating site, and was drawn to her profile, and contacted her.
What was it about her profile?
She could write. She was intelligent, clearly intelligent, and not that, that just the way she expressed herself and the things she was interested in.
Was she educated?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of my criteria, and and then we met. I caught a train over here, and I was robbed on the train, and she was really sympathetic. And
you were robbed on the train back to Australia? I mean, back to that part of Australia to meet her?
Back to Perth. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, this sounds unusual. I put my car on the train, wanting to catch a train instead of drive. And I had some possessions in the car, and I think it was an inside job, right? And my car windows were smashed, and things were stolen from my car when I arrived. I know, it was the first thing that I noticed. Taking my car
Oh,
off the train.
was your car
Um,
allowed to be on the train?
oh yeah. It's common,
Oh,
to put.
oh. Were
Um,
any other cars vandalized like that?
only mine. So
Oh,
um, yeah. Anyway, so texted her, and she was very sympathetic, and and then we met, and have barely been apart since. But
when you met her, what was your mental state like?
it was fine at that point. Yeah,
Were you on meds, off meds?
on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So were you like a little sedated? I mean, what was it like?
Um,
As these meds do.
yeah, I wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell you how I was. She
Well,
didn't.
let
She
me.
didn't. She didn't. She didn't suspect anything about my mental state, and I didn't.
Okay,
It wasn't the first thing that I mentioned to her. In fact, it took
right.
a while to get to it.
Can you tell us
I
about
told her,
that? Like at what point did you disclose that information, and what was the reaction?
yeah. So it was probably a few months into the relationship, well before we got married, and again she was understanding, and that to me indicated that she was the right person to be with. Um,
Wow.
she'd had she knew a bit about mental health, and and yeah, accepted me, I guess, as I am, with all of my
And were you the
amazing
first?
abilities and
Were you the first
flaws.
person with schizophrenia that she ever encountered?
Probably, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
So
that's beautiful.
yeah. I think it's a huge challenge for her, to be honest.
For her?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Um, she almost. I mean, she almost. I can't speak for her, but I think I get the feeling she would rather that I don't talk about it. um,
Oh, and yet you wrote books about it.
yeah, that's right. Um, so
She couldn't have been happy about that.
I've kind of concealed her identity in the books in a way, but um,
But you
so
said she wished you luck with this interview.
yeah, that's right. So try and work that out.
What did she mean by that?
I'm not too sure. I think she just meant. I think it was genuine. I think it was genuine. Um,
From
so
her?
she knows it's important to me.
Okay.
Uh,
What's important to her?
I think just having a normal life, and that's the challenge, really. Therein lies the problem, that we have these unusual things happen in our lives, and for people who don't have that in their life, um, it's just something that they don't connect with, I think. But at the
What do
same
you mean?
time,
What's unusual about your is it just you that's unusual, or is there something else?
uh, well, I wouldn't put myself at the center of the problem. I mean, it's the world. It's the way the world is. That's why I react to it at times in unusual ways. But it's circumstance and environment, and uh, the past. But um, so yeah. so I don't think I'm the problem.
Okay,
And
but does she think you're a problem sometimes?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
So what keeps
So,
the marriage going then? How do you like how is it that it lasted this long?
man, you're asking the probing questions. I'm under the spotlight here. There is, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's too complex to encapsulate in a short space of time, but it's yeah.
Well, we have
it
4
is just
minutes.
4 minutes. I think it's got to be love, but yeah, I don't know how to.
Okay,
It's got
love.
to be
So you
something
have
like
there's love. There's love between the two of you, and I'm assuming, of course, between your kids. And how old are your kids now?
yeah. My son, we have a boy. He's
Oh,
almost a teenager.
oh, he's almost a teenager. Okay.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
do you have like self-love in addition to this familial love?
Self-love. You
Yes,
mean like
the
ego? Or,
love and respect of yourself.
yeah, I think I get along okay with me. Yes. Yeah, I don't have any self-loathing, if that's another way of answering it. Yeah.
Okay. And are you able to express love for other people?
That is hard, actually, but I think, see, the way I rationalize it is, I'm not that expressive or demonstrative in the way, with emotions and expressing love. I say it a lot, that I love people, uh, but I'm a bit of a typical male in my view, not not in a toxic way, not in a I'm just a typical Aussie male who, I think there are a lot of us who don't really show enough emotion,
Love and affection.
love and affection. Yeah.
We have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. What would you like to impart upon the viewership?
Yeah. So no, I think, well, first I want to say thank you for asking me to be interviewed, Dan, and for people who might watch this, we're all unique and wonderful, and in our own way, very important beings, and we all have a right to be here. And no matter what has happened, I think, I guess my journey has been about is that no matter how bad things have been, there's been hope in what I've lived. That where I am now is not where I was, I think. And yeah, so I think hang in there is really anyone, I think, who is experiencing a challenge. And if you're not and things are good, then live and enjoy. And yeah, that's about it.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop the recording.
Beauty, thanks.